Welcome, one and all. That's right. It is Boscar night. The new expansion releases next week, and with it, a new year of Star Wars Unlimited. So we thought we would do the first annual Boscar Awards, Ice Cave Radio Boscar Awards, the Imperial Academy Awards. No, that doesn't sound good. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves on one side of the heroism villainy spectrum, right? So we are just going to give awards out for all sorts of different things tonight. They were voted on by you, the fans, and it is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. You can see our wonderful trophy in the middle of the screen. But who, Charmer, who will go home with a Boscar tonight?
I have some strong predictions.
Okay.
I think that there are some that are an absolute lock. I'm looking at you, Energy Conversion Lab, but I think that we're also in store for some surprises. And I, as you were talking, think I have settled on maybe the Galactic Academy, perhaps.
Okay.
Something in that vein to keep it a little neutral.
It's only the first year, so we're still figuring this out, right? I mean, this show is going to get much bigger, much better in future years, right? Because we're going to be doing this for a lot of years, obviously. This is also, by the way, Ice Cave Radio episode 75, coincidentally. And I can't believe it's been 75 episodes already. I mean, I wasn't around for every single one, but I was around from like episode maybe 10, something like that. 8, 10,
it was
something like that.
It was very, very early. So
yeah,
more than a year, that's for sure.
Way more than a year, longer than the game has been around. We've been doing this, so it's exciting to go through and sort of remember the first year of Star Wars Unlimited, all the great stuff that we saw, all the things that have come and gone, and I think it's going to be a fun night of reminiscing before the new set drops this weekend with pre-release. But I'll list our categories for you, Charmer, so far. Our categories, we have 7 categories this time around, if I can count right. We have Best Base, because that's the best everything, because we're topping the Oscars. So Best Base, Best Upgrade, Best Event, Best Ground Unit, Best Space Unit, Best Leader, and Best Deck. So those are our categories. The committee has selected the nominees. In many cases, it is 9. It is less in some others. You know, the Academy Awards only does like 5 usually in each category. So we're way more generous anyway than they are. And again, you've had the last like week or so out there to vote on these. And so this is the Star Wars Unlimited community's voice being used here to tell us who wins, who goes home with the Boscar. But I'm ready to get started. Are you ready, Charmer?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see who takes home these coveted Boscar prizes. I'm really looking forward to making history. This is the inaugural one.
That's right. And if you're listening on a podcast network, you really want to watch the video because we've got a lot of great graphics for this too. The overlays have never been better. But let's take a look at our first category, the nominees for Best Base. And Charmer, I in the future maybe we'll have some like cheesy scripted out dialogue for introducing all these. We're kind of winging it this time around, but I'll do my best here. I'll let you take the next one. But a base is a place that you call home, right? And it can be a thing that can mean your doom or mean your success. And let's be honest, in year 1, there were only 2 bases anyone was really talking about. It was Energy Conversion Laboratory and Tarkin Town. And, really, there were other rare bases out there. You saw them pop up once in a while, like Security Complex with Grand Inquisitor maybe was okay. We saw people trying out Petronaki Arena. I'm a little bit surprised the Set 3 bases weren't used more than they were so far. I think they still could come up big in the future. But it really was these 2 bases, I think, year 1 that you either, love to hate or love to use, right?
Yeah, kind of. This is the classic, these are the nominees, but it's ignoring the commercial success of certain things, right?
Sure.
The year that Jurassic Park wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but it should have been, I would argue that Chopper Base belongs on this list because I played that base more than any other base in year 1 because I played a lot of Yellow Sabine, of course, but also I have a deep love for Chopper.
Fair enough. All right. Well, maybe it'll make it in there. I mean, the thing is, as long as it's still in rotation, which I guess it wouldn't be come next year. But, hey, Oscar snubs or Boscar snubs is what we should say for copyright reasons. Boscar snubs are something that you can just expect. That's just part of the game, right? But are you ready to see the winner?
I am.
All right. And so the winner of the best base, the Bosskers 2025, is Energy Conversion Lab. No big surprise there. It got 75.86% of the vote. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Tarkentown, maybe was a little bit late to the party, right? A lot of people are using it now, but it was really ECL for the first, 2/3 of the year, I suppose.
Yes, this was a standout base right from the get-go, simply because Star Wars Unlimited is a game that values playing units, right? You want to play your iconic Star Wars characters. You want to play your iconic Star Wars ships. And so any base where you are getting to play units and then do stuff is going to be, I think, incredibly useful and popular. So congratulations, Energy Conversion Lab. You certainly earned it.
That's right. No speeches from our winners this year. Maybe next year we'll get around to that.
Yeah.
But that means we don't have to play them off the stage. Yeah, drum roll. Well, I mean, I can like drum on my desk or something.
I was thinking maybe instead of a drum roll, when we do the lead-ins, we could do the Chewbacca noise. That's close to a drum roll, right?
Well, you could. They don't even do a drum roll in the Oscars either, so
yeah,
we don't really need one in the Bosskers, I suppose. But yeah, well, and Bosk just winning for best name to make a parody of the Oscars with. So congrats, Bosk. There you go.
Congrats.
The statue's a little bit cursed, but I kind of want one.
I don't know. I think the statue's the best part. I'm not gonna lie.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Who wouldn't love a nude Bosk, right?
Future statues. We need to put him holding his little rifle though, just like the art. So,
like I said, this is the prototype Bosskers, right? Yeah. It's gonna get much better down the road. Trust me. All right, so let's move on to our second category. It's gonna be I'm gonna have to advance the slide here. Our second category is going to be Best Upgrade. Charmer, why don't you give us a wonderfully scripted and very tight intro for Best Upgrade here?
The nominees this year are certainly going to upgrade the deck, upgrade the experience, but they also might upgrade your opponent. That's right. We have cards like Perilous Position and Traitorous and Top Target in the mix, but that's not all. Of course, you want to play things that make your own units very, very, very powerful. So for that, we need things like the Hotshot DL44 Blaster. Of course, it wouldn't be complete without your trusty jetpack and the iconic Darksaber. Those are your nominees for Best Upgrade 2025.
That's right, and I gotta say, there's a pretty good mix here, right? I feel like with a lot of our nominees, there's a lot of set one stuff, but Upgrade ended up with a lot of things from across many sets. Traitorous, the only one from set one, in fact.
Yeah, we have, what I like about this is representation from each set. We have representation from each aspect, not counting heroism or villainy, obviously.
True.
And we have an even split of things you would want to play on your own units versus your opponent's units.
Yeah, fair enough. 3. Wow. All right. Well, are you ready to see who the winner is?
I am, because I think that this one is not as clear cut.
All right. Well, the previous slide is going to pop up, but that's because I have to advance it. So the winner of Best Upgrade of 2025, the Boscar goes to Hotshot DL44 Blaster, 40.68% of the vote. You sound surprised.
I am. I was actually between Perilous Position or Darksaber. I felt
really?
Like
wow.
They were going to make the biggest splash. Obviously, Perilous Position, I think, has become ubiquitous in Vigilance decks.
Oh, yeah.
And Darksaber is just iconic. I thought that one might just be people's favorite because it's so cool, but the Hotshot DL44 Blaster coming in with 40% of the vote is an upset in my mind.
Yeah, it was more than I expected, and I'll put all the percentages out there afterwards. I've got all the polls, so if you're curious about who came in close second, we can get all that out to you at some point in the future here. But for now, we're going to focus on the winners. And the thing is, I think the reason why we have the Blaster do so well is because of so many good cunning decks that are in the meta, and the fact that you can smuggle this out with cunning and you don't even need to run aggression really kind of tipped it over the edge. And so I think people went for sheer power with the vote here, and you can't deny the power of the Blaster, right? The smuggled Blaster,
unless you're
specifically.
A Jedi.
Well, it is
a bit of an uncivilized.
It is uncivilized. Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, uncivilized or not, we have to move on to our next category, which let me make sure I'm clicking the right thing so I don't spoil anything. All right, our next category is going to be the best event. You know, Charmer, you think things are going your way. You know, I mean, you've got great units on the board. You love your base and all that. Maybe they're upgraded, but then out of nowhere, your opponent uses their action to play an event, a strong, powerful, one-time effect that is unforgettable, that will change the game forever. We have 9 nominees for Best Event this year for the Bosskers 2025. They are, in no particular order, For a Cause I Believe In, U-Wing Reinforcements, Resupply, Force Throw, McClunky, Overwhelming Barrage, Cunning, Vigilance, and now there are 2 of them. So overwhelmingly from set 1, but, you know, I think a lot of card games, the first set tends to have very, very strong spells, if you will. So I'm not super surprised about the committee's decision here. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised by any of these inclusions. I think that this one might have been one of the toughest categories when it comes to nominations, because the events are very versatile in this game, and there's a lot of room to play around with what you want to include or what can have a big impact. Sometimes in this game, the events you play only once per game, or you might only run 1 or 2 of, are just as important. And so, I think that this one was difficult, but I'm not surprised to see most of these.
Do you have anyone in particular you'd like to predict? I'm curious because you don't know the results of this. So
I don't know that. I do not know the results. I don't know that I know the exact winner. I think that the top 3, if I was going to pick I think are favored, would be For a Cause I Believe In, Overwhelming Barrage, or Cunning. I think that Overwhelming Barrage is probably has the most raw power, but I would not be surprised if I saw Cunning win this, just because once folks honed in on those double cunning lists, it went kind of wild in the meta for quite a bit, and it's still going wild as of now.
Absolutely. Well, let's find out who the winner is. The winner of the Bosskers 2025 Best Event is, drum roll, even though there's no drum on the Oscars, but we'll just say drum roll. I can't hear it. Your noise suppression is too good, Charmer.
Yeah,
we're gonna the best event of 2025 is, or year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited, I should say, is Overwhelming Barrage, with an overwhelming 37.7% of the vote, a large percentage in a pack of 9 nominees. But yeah, like you said, Charmer, you just cannot deny the raw damage, the raw power of this card.
Yeah, this card is one of those that turns a board state, much like what I was saying with Energy Conversion Lab. This is a unit-centric game, and so when you're looking at events, you want things that are going to impact the most units possible. This giving a buff to one of your units while also destroying your opponents is usually a very big swing. And then when we look at the history of what was played over set 1, there's a lot of decks where this was timed with your leader deployment, and there is nothing more brutal or powerful than deploying your leader and then following it up with this card, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. And the community agrees, because they did vote Overwhelming Barrage as our Boscar winner for Best Event in year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited. And a great playmat as well. I know there is a playmat out there. I really want it. That's one of the ones I don't have, and I'd really like to get it somehow, someday. But that's neither here nor there. It's time to move on. And, Charmer, as I hit this, Charmer, we couldn't do an award show without remembering those that have left us in the first year of Star Wars Unlimited 2025, or the Star Wars Unlimited, the first year rather. Not everyone made it to year number 2.
No.
Yep, it's very sad. And so for this reason, of course, we have to present our Bosskers 2025 in memoriam. Please be silent as we watch this very sentimental and emotional video.
So the announcement today is that effective this Friday, November 8th, with the release of Twilight of the Republic, Boba Fett will be suspended from Premiere.
was beautiful. It was beautiful. And we all miss
I always told
Boba
him,
Fett. Yeah.
stay away from Sarlacc, but he wouldn't listen.
And he never got out. That never happened. He just died in there.
Never happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. He was never seen
And there
again.
will never be another one like him.
Yeah, that's
except
right.
for set 2 and set 4 and
yeah, don't worry about it. But original Boba Fett, you know, we miss you. But really not that much because you're way too strong. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that they actually suspended that card. But yeah.
Can't help but notice perhaps some foreshadowing though, because everything that was featured in there was either, you know, the memoriam star, if you will, or cards that have won awards here at the Bosskers.
That's
with
true.
the exception of the fire spray. So when we get to the ships, we'll have to keep a close eye out for that one.
That's right. That's the thing, because there is a lot in that deck that was powerful beyond just Boba Fett, of course, but that leader man readying 2 resources, the power of the 5 flip. Oh my goodness, it was a strong deck. But we are only about halfway through the Bosskers for year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited. It's time to move on, Charmer, to our next category. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Our next category is going to be Best Space Unit of Year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited. And go ahead and lead us into this category.
All right. This category, as you might expect, is just devastating. If you are a millennial who is a fan of the Millennium Falcon, you're going to be excited. If you are Thanos, you're going to be upset because there is an Avenger in here. Our nominees include, of course, the Devastator, Bright Hope, a Ruthless Raider, Green Squadron A-Wing, Fett's Fire Spray, again from the In Memoriam, Millennium Falcon from set 1, Concord Dawn Interceptors, Avenger, and Wing Leader.
Yeah.
Those are your nominees.
That's right. A collection of incredibly powerful space units that were always game defining when they hit the board, whether it's the Concord Dawn Interceptors stopping you in the air cold, the Ruthless Raider finishing off a game, or the Wing Leader giving you that early game buff. There was a lot of power in the space arena. Are you ready to see the winner, Charmer?
I am. I was just loading up my bets because, you know, I got to get that line in on Star Wars Unlimited Kings.
You got to do that. We'll do that next year too. Sure. All right. Our winner, the winner for Best Space Unit Year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited is the Avenger. That's right. I think, and 25% of the vote, which again is not an overwhelming barrage of votes, I suppose, but out of 9, that's still very, very high. But yeah, I mean, personally, I can't think of any other game that was just, or any other card rather, that was just a game ender when it hit the board, and the Avenger just did that.
Yes, the Avenger was absolutely like the win condition for the decks that wanted to run it, and it's a ship that has a special place in my heart as somebody who played the original Star Wars TCG. It was something that I often played in the Decipher game, but I will say I'm surprised that it won, because that was some stiff competition when you really think about it. The A-Wing ran rampant.
Right.
You know, you talk about game enders. The Millennium Falcon was a literal game ender a lot of times because it would come down after initiative was taken and then steal a victory the way Han steals hearts. So, yeah, congratulations, Avenger. This was a stacked field, and you got the win.
Yeah, I really wasn't sure which way this one was going to go when the committee brought in the nominations this time around. I really love Green Squadron A-Wing. I mean, that's in a lot of decks, rather. It's so strong. I mean, Fett's Fire Spray as well. We saw that, and you know, even though Boba was suspended, Spark of Rebellion Boba was, we still saw it in things like Jango Fett. So, yeah, I'm surprised. But here we have our winner for Best Space Unit Year 1 of Star Wars Unlimited is the Avenger. And that means that we are nearing the latter half of our categories here in the Bosskers. So it's time to move on to the next category, which is, we did Best Space Unit, so now it's time for Best Ground Unit. That's right. One arena wouldn't be great without some action going on in the other arena, and we have a strong mix of contenders here, from buffers like the Fleet Lieutenant to powerhouses like Darth Vader and the Crate Dragon to utility cards like Super Laser Technician and Tech. The Ground Arena is a place for all deck styles to flourish and annoy people like Village Protectors do. But before we go into the awards, I think this is a very difficult one to predict as well, because all the nominees here were extremely useful to their decks, but in different ways. What do you think, Charmer?
Yeah, this is interesting, and I'm glad that I was, left out of the voting, if you will, because I don't know that I could have made a decision. When you're looking at just the history of the game, obviously Darth and Luke came right out of the gate incredibly strong, and yet despite their power level, I think arguably out of set one, K2SO might have had more impact than any other normal ground unit in the game.
Could have, yeah.
However, cards like Super Laser Technician are absolute gems. They are the workhorses that make everything about their deck work well. Crate Dragon is a game ender in the same way that Avenger is. Tech enabled some pretty insane things once he was added to the realm, to the world of Star Wars Unlimited. So yeah, I don't know which way this one is going to go. I will say I'm a little, again, upset at the snub, because where is the Wampa?
I mean, it's close to our hearts. But the thing is, with niche cards like that, niche independent cards, if you will, it's tough to get that groundswell, around Bossker season to really kind of give them those. They got to play the game, and the Wampa wasn't able to quite get there, I think.
I just felt like after the Wampa did so well at the Cantina Film Festival, that it would have got more Boscar traction. But
yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to next year when Bossker season starts again. What sort of campaigns we're gonna see. Are the devs gonna get into the spirit of things? We'll find out. But for now, we're gonna find out who the winner is in the category of Best Ground Unit in Star Wars Unlimited season, or year one, I guess, the Bosskers 2025. It's year 2025. We got to call it that year, I suppose. And the winner is our ground unit known as Luke Skywalker with 47.62% of the vote. I was frankly shocked by this, Charmer, because yeah, sure, Luke is a strong unit, but I did not think he would claim that much of the vote as he did. When you look at how
stacked that field was, this
is an upset right here.
This is not just an upset. This is an overwhelming victory in a way that I could not have predicted. That is wild to me. Don't get me wrong, fantastic card, but I would have never predicted almost half of the total votes.
Yeah, I'm just so surprised for so many reasons. One, because heroism usually, trended more on the aggressive side, so you just didn't see Luke a ton. He was in, some of the slower decks here and there, but not a ton, right? Even stuff like, Casino Han, all sevens Han wouldn't even run him anymore, right? And on the vigilance side, you're mostly villainy, so you don't see him a lot, there obviously too. So I'm surprised, but I mean, there's no doubt that when Luke hits the board, he leaves an impression, right? The 6/7 with Restore 3, if you don't get rid of it, that is insane. And then just -6/-6 takes so much stuff out. So you get a lot of value for those 7 resources. And I guess that's what people are keeping in mind. But yeah, this was the one I think that surprised me the most out of all of our category winners. Luke Skywalker taking Best Ground Unit with an enormous 47.62% of the vote. Crazy. All right, so that means we have 2 more categories of this, and this is the big one. Towards the end of other awards show, you get like Best Picture, Best Director, the big ones. So I think these are the 2, biggest categories of the Bosskers here. The first category, Charmer, that we will look at is Best Leader of the first year of Star Wars Unlimited, and we have our 9 nominees. Slightly off center, I see now in the graphic. That's a bit embarrassing, but I was in a hurry when I made these. But go ahead and tell us about these leaders. Read them off for us, Charmer.
All right. The 9 leaders nominated for Best Leader of the Bosskers 2025 are Han Solo from Set 1, the Heroism and Cunning Han Solo, Jango Fett, Cad Bane, Sabine Wren, Kira, Emperor Palpatine, of course, the villainy command one.
Right.
Boba Fett from set 1.
Rip Boba Fett.
Yeah, rest in power, my friend. Quinlan Vos, and of course, it would not be the Bosskers without Bosk himself.
That's right. Well, no doubt that Bosk Vigilance deck, and honestly, Bosk Command really kind of made waves in a lot of set 2 and even into set 3. Quinlan, obviously a big set 3 star along with Jango Fett, and then you've got, you know, our set 1 powerhouses in Han Solo, Sabine, and Boba Fett. And I guess Emperor Palpatine still was kind of a perpetual showing here and there in tournaments. Cad Bane, another one. And Kira, I'd say out of blue, probably finding the most success on the villainy side down the line. But this is a tough one too, right? Because there's going to be some personal bias that comes in here. And there's undoubtedly a lot of power in all the decks that were associated with this leaders. So this was a tough one, I think. This was a tough one to predict too.
Yeah, I think that if I had to predict a top 3, it's probably Han, Sabine, and Boba Fett, simply because they've been around the longest, so they've had the longest time to leave their mark. I think that Jango, for example, is a fantastic leader, but when you are going into the voting and you look at how I'll just be honest, how standardized Han, Sabine, and Boba made the meta, right? Like they kind of set the tone for all of year 1. I think that that's really hard to ignore. So I think it could be any one of them. We'll have to wait and see which one, though.
That's right. Well, let's find out right now without any further ado. The winner of Best Leader in the first year of Star Wars Unlimited, the Boscar goes to Boba Fett from set 1 with 46.3% of the vote. Pretty large sweep for set 1 Boba Fett. But hey, I mean, you can't be surprised, right? When you're so strong of a leader that you actually get removed from the game in the premier setting.
Yes.
I think that kind of says it all right there, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They came in and said no disintegrations except for you, Boba Fett.
In the end, you got disintegrated. You disintegrated yourself, Boba Fett. But what an indelible mark this card has left on the game. And you can still play him in Twin Suns or just for fun. You know, you're just playing with your friends. You can still play Boba Fett. But yeah, I mean, just again, that flipping on 5, the ability to get 2 resources back when he attacks when flipped. It's like, he was a very, very strong leader. And I think a lot of people showing some respect to Boba. You're giving him one final great send-off here. And that means, Charmer, we are down to our final category of the Bosskers 2025, the first year of Star Wars Unlimited. Are you ready?
I am, in fact, ready. Let's see what the nominees are for Best Deck.
The nominees
2025.
Yes, the nominees for Best Deck are as follows. It is Han Solo Cunning, Sabine Wren Energy Conversion Laboratory, Boba Fett Cunning, Boba Fett Command. I mean, they're both super strong lists. Kira Energy Conversion Laboratory, Quinlan Vos Tarkin Town, Cad Bane Tarkin Town, Darth Vader Vigilance, and Bosk Vigilance. And interesting spread there. I mean, the Vader Vigilance, there was a time where it just won everything. You know, when that deck came out, it just crushed the meta for a while. And you know, I'm frankly a little bit surprised people moved off of it, because I think it is still a lot stronger than people think it is, but they just moved on to new toys, I guess. But what do you think?
I think that I'm sad it left the meta, because that was the whole reason I started playing Yellow Sabine. That was the good matchup I had. I put more hours into playtesting that matchup, I think, than any other matchup in the game. And I also just wanted to give a shout out to, of course, Yellow Sabine. Didn't get nominated, but of course, the blonde Sabine, as she's called, still near and dear to my heart, and I know yours as well. But yeah, I think that this list makes sense when I'm looking at it. We've seen versions of these pop up a lot in the meta, in the tournament reports. Boba Fett not recently, obviously, because of the suspension, but all of the rest are still popping up even now in some of the planetary qualifiers, with as you said, the exception of Darth Vader Blue, which had that really strong run in set 1 and then just kind of fell out of favor a bit. Yeah.
Again, I mean, just gets rushed down a little bit too much, but also, you know, I think I think people didn't stick with it enough. It's probably one of the harder decks to play on this list too, so that's probably what pushed people away from it as well, is that it did take some good game knowledge, some good finesse to get the most out of that deck. But it's our last category. I mean, best deck, that is the biggest award we can possibly give out. And the decks you see in front of you are probably responsible for I would say the vast majority of tournament wins and planetary qualifier wins over the first year of the game. So it's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of strong stuff in there. There's a lot of preference, but there can be only one Boscar winner. Charmer, are you ready to find out who it's going to be?
I am, in fact, ready.
All right, drum roll, please. The winner of best deck of the first year of Star Wars Unlimited, the Boscar goes to Sabine ECL. That's right, with 36.07 of the vote. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a great deck. Wins tournaments all the time. Fairly easy to pilot. There's obviously some, you know, finessing to be done here, but such a great introductory deck for people that want to just pick something up and feel strong. It really is a deck, Charmer, that had it all.
It is a deck that had it all, and I would argue that this is the baseline for set one, for sure, and probably the baseline for year one. And what I mean by that is whenever you were trying to build a new deck, the first thing you would do is say, do I have game into Sabine? You don't have to be favored. You just have to not auto lose to it, because you would expect to see this at any given tournament, and for good reason. So I am not necessarily surprised that Sabine won. In fact, I'm very happy. It's my favorite character, but I would love to see the voting results. I'm very excited that you're going to post those later, just because I'm wondering if the presence of two Boba Fett lists cannibalized each other.
You know,
I really thought one of the Boba Fett lists was going to take it.
It's tough to say. I mean, that's a good point, but I felt like, you know, it seemed like both needed to be included, right? Because they were both kind of equally strong, equally meta dominant for so long. But Sabine, in the end, man, I mean, just the strongest deck. And I agree, the baseline, that's me too. You know, whenever I built a new deck over the last year, the first question was, you know, can it hang with Sabine? And if the answer was yes, you got a deck. If the answer was no, back to the drawing board, right? Because if you couldn't take down Sabine, if you couldn't at least play close against Sabine, you just weren't going to do well into the rest of the pack too. So yeah, there is no other deck. I agree, that is such a standard baseline deck of your deck has to be this good to hang as a Sabine was. And so you can see some of the other key cards down at the bottom there too that we saw in Sabine over the course of the first year as well. It's the whole, see, you know, when best deck wins, all the cards have to take the stage together, right? It has to be like a group acceptance thing. So that's what we got going on here, you know, for you stream, for you, you know, listeners on podcast platforms. Sorry about the memoriam thing too. You just heard music basically during that, but it was really touching, I promise. But that's it. Go ahead.
Maybe me sniffling.
Maybe Charmer sniffling a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just better at holding back my tears. That's all. And so that brings us to the end of our first Ice Cave Radio Awards show, the Bosskers 2025. What an incredible first year of Star Wars Unlimited we've had, Charmer. And before we close out the show, I wanted to just talk about what are our favorite memories from year one, because you look back on it, it's only just a year, right? But it feels like so much has happened. The meta's changed so much. The decks we've been playing have become so different from what we played at the beginning of the game. You know, our understanding of the game, the community has grown so much. So I just want to do a little bit of reminiscing before we end the show here and ask you, what are some of your favorite memories from set one, and you know, what are you looking forward to in not set one, in year one, and what are you looking forward to in year two?
I would have to say that my first knee-jerk reaction is that I would point to two different things. One is my favorite memory as a content creator for the game, which was, of course, the pre-event in Minnesota at the Wisdom Studios. That was where I got to meet you in person for the first time. We got to play with each other. We got to play with the devs. We got to meet other great content creators who all just love the game. And whenever you're in a space where you're just surrounded by people who all love the same things that you do, and you're all just there to kind of enjoy it and celebrate it in such a way, it's an intoxicating feeling. I know that, you know, you've covered a lot of games. I've covered a lot of games. And whenever I go to any of those kind of live events, there's nothing else really like it when it comes to gaming in my mind. So for me, the content creator side of me really loved that. But on a personal note, the other one that immediately jumps out for me is when I took Stark to Gen Con, essentially 2 years ago, when the game was not out yet and they were just doing the demos. And I had signed Stark up so that we could demo Star Wars Unlimited and we could demo Lorcana and a couple of other games as well, because he wanted to start playing card games with his dad, but he didn't know which one he wanted to pick. And he played Star Wars and he instantly fell in love, and he went through that line like 30 some times, and that's all he wanted. And it was one of those moments where like I was so proud of him, but also personally relieved, because I'm never going to force him to do something he doesn't want to do, but I was just so relieved. Like, he picked a game that I knew I was going to love, and then we were just all in. So for me, on a personal note, just having that moment with Stark, it was his first time at Gen Con. Everyone from Fantasy Flight Games was just delightful and so nice to Stark as well. They really made him feel included, and that will always stand out to me.
That's awesome. That is great. And my kid's only about 20 months old right now, but she loves to, pick up and look at my cards and bend some in half. But hopefully she'll enjoy playing the game at some point too. So fingers crossed here. It's an inspirational story. Well, for me, I mean, top of my list has to be, or near the top at least, has to be that creator event, before the game came out, where we all met up at the Mall of America and got to play the game. Just being in that room full of people being so excited to play a Star Wars card game again. Like, I hadn't gotten to experience that since I was in like high school, The last time I was in a room full of people being excited about playing a Star Wars card game. So it was great to have that feeling again. The shouts when somebody opened a showcase, hanging out with the devs and hearing everything. It was awesome. And, the game's been great since then. Getting to do this podcast has been a ton of fun. We're only just getting started here too. And just the game is so good. When I first heard about this game, I was excited, but I was also afraid because I was like, please be good, please be good, please be good. Because I'm like, man, if this game sucks, it's going to be so disappointing, right? Because like, we just need a good Star Wars thing, right? And so when I finally played the game and I finally saw how good it was, I was so relieved. And I'm just happy that the game has continued to get better since then, right? This game still had the best set one meta of any card game in history, where there's never been so much deck diversity and just build variation and player skill highlighting in that set compared to any other card game. It's just second to none, right? And the deck building in this game in general is just incredible. So I mean, yeah, it's just I love Star Wars and I love card games, and it's been so nice to have those two things come together in such a great way. So shout out to Fantasy Flight, making a great game over there. Keep it up. Shout out to all of you at home for playing the game, first of all, and for watching our silly podcast, for indulging our nerdiness here, whether you're listening, whether you're watching. Thanks everybody in our Discord for all the great discourse that's happening every day, all the great conversations and chats. Thanks all our people that competed on Conquer the Cave. As soon as Set 4 gets rolling, we will get rolling with that again. We're just on break for a couple weeks to let that happen. And yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. I think they'd be playing us off the stage if we were doing an acceptance thing, but we're giving out the awards, not accepting it. So hopefully you all enjoyed the Bosskers this year. Let us know in the comments if you did. If you have any suggestions for next year, we want to make this a lot bigger the next time around. So we're already getting started. They say as soon as the Bosskers ends, the preparation for the next Bosskers begins. So I'm sure we're going to be getting on that ASAP. But in the meantime, a lot of Set 4 to play. Those ships are looking so good. I'm so excited about that. Any final comments before we close this one out, Charmer? I'm obviously losing the ability to speak English, so we better stop.
All right. Well, I guess on that note,
may the Force be with you.